Most people, they watch playoff football the wrong way. They stare at the ball, they wait for a big play, and when it's all over, they're like, that team choked, or we should have won that. No. But when you actually slow the tape down, you realize the winning teams like the Rams, Patriots, and even the Seahawks, man, they're doing less on purpose. They're not just playing fast, they are using less to win more. And that's what truly makes a winning team.
I can't fucking compete! I just can't fucking compete!
The game looks fast when confusion is still present. And when you watch teams like the 49ers or the Rams, the first thing that jumps out, it's not speed, it's calmness. Nobody looks rushed. Nobody's spinning around pointing like they just realized the test is today. Everybody is lined up early, on time, and relaxed. Except my guy here.
Big 102, no timeouts. Yeah, formation's messed up. Yeah. Jennings knows it.
When you realize calm isn't talent, it's clarity that comes from good, disciplined coaching. And that's what separates a lot of winning teams, especially in the playoffs. Your perspective of football changes when you realize this. When you watch the Bills or the Patriots in high leverage moments, like for in this example, you have Josh Allen communicating with his team that he's audibling to a check that works a lot better for the look that the Jaguars are giving him on defense. And that's what separates elite teams. Now, even though the Bills did lose in Bill fashion last week against the Broncos, they are still a very good team. Another good example is Drake May. He checks on this play and he audibles to a better call, and he's directly dictating what the defense is going to do. And it turns into a huge gain in such a critical moment when their backs are against the wall. These little things, like communication, it sets the urgency. The subtle checks, the quiet confirmations, that's preparation cashing in under pressure. Gonna have you walking out like,
what I say? Tell them to bring me my money.
All right, back to the main topic. Let's compare these to the teams that aren't doing the hottest or are already out of the playoffs. And we've seen this with younger teams who are usually a bit more inconsistent because they haven't had the experience. One of the key examples is the Panthers. They folded under pressure, especially some of these throws and communication miscues, not from just Bryce Young, but also from his young receivers. And by no means was this throw to Jalen Coker on Bryce Young. When you really look at it, you realize Jalen Coker slowed down. He was expecting him to leave it in the zone, while Bryce Young was expecting him to keep running. And if the communication was better, this wouldn't have been a turnover. And this last one was, if you ask me, honestly, just bad coaching. In a key situation like this, you want to catch the ball and instantly get down. Jimmy Horn, he's a young guy. He's going to make mistakes. And that's what growth is about. You got to make mistakes to learn from them. Greg Olson explains this better than I ever could. Reason being, he's a great analyst. And look what he has to say about it.
Found the matchup. He's open. Jimmy Horn just needs to go to the ground. Just go to the ground. Secure the catch. You're well past the first down marker, and he just tries to catch that low pass by his knee and maintain his feet.
And look, I don't think Jimmy Horn is a bad athlete whatsoever. I think he's going to be a dog next year. And I think he's in for a breakout year. Call me crazy. I think he takes over Leggett's spot. Wild take, but I'm ready to die on that hill. The Jimmy Horn drop is a perfect example. When clarity isn't there, players are still processing it after the snap. And when you're thinking late, the game feels fast, even when the opponent isn't doing anything special. I touched on this in my last video, and it's alignment. The best teams win before the ball is even snapped. It sounds crazy, right? But look, if you really want to understand playoff football, stop watching the ball. Watch the alignment, the leverage, and watch the spacing. Somebody always looks uncomfortable before the snap, and that's where the answer is. When teams like the Rams or the Packers, heck man, even the Bills line up, their receivers already understand where the leverage advantage is. When motion happens with the 49ers or the Rams or Chargers, it's not just motion for vibes. It's a question that the defense has to answer immediately. In some cases, the defense starts freaking out.
No, 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 no. Wait, 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 wait. Wait, 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 wait.
When you do that motion, quarterbacks have an advantage. They can read what the defense is actually doing. Stafford and Josh Allen are great examples of this because they aren't guessing, they're confirming. And that's the difference between walking into a test blind and knowing the answers are A or C compared to walking in and you're like, shoot, I picked A 4 times, might as well be B. The play looks easy because the hard part has already happened. They've already processed what's going on and what is going to happen, and they're already focusing on, okay, this is my hot, I'm going to throw it here. Coaches notice this immediately. Early alignment builds trust, and late alignment, it builds clipboards. And by building clipboards, I mean the ones that are thrown on the ground. And when teams like the Eagles or Jaguars struggle here, you can feel the offense playing not to mess up instead of playing to win. And that hurts to say for my Eagles because it was a bad loss. Pitiful. This is where my fans and even my young athletes lose the plot, man. It's like when you're watching a good movie and then they throw some unexpected cutscene in or just something that doesn't match well and you're like, what are you on? But for real, honestly, elite teams and the disciplined teams, they chase control and not the highlights. And stick with me now, because I'm about to break it down. Everybody wants the deep shot. Everybody wants explosives. And when it doesn't happen, they're like, they're just being too conservative. The Eagles, that is very much the case. But for other teams, it is not whatsoever. When you watch teams like the 49ers, the Rams, and the Bears, you see patience. They want third and manageable. They want favorable field position. They want the defense tired, annoyed, and arguing. I don't know if you guys remember, but remember when the Commanders were fighting on the sidelines?
Today. Oh my God, what is that?
College teammates as well. Whoa.
Oh my God.
Well,
What is that?
When the defense is fighting, hey, as the offense, you're doing something right. And it usually means you're in control. When the offense start taking 5 yards without flinching, or they'll run into a light box to keep the chains moving, every clean rep, it stacks pressure. And that's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Nothing dramatic. Then suddenly, you're losing blood pressure and patience. When teams like the Eagles or even the Panthers try to speed up the game too early, drives stall out, third and long shows up, and defensive confidence skyrockets. Because now you're playing the defensive games. And look, when it's third and long, they know it's more than likely going to be a pass. So they're just sending the dogs at you. And to be honest, the big plays don't disappear. They show up later. And that's after discipline has done the dirty work. This is where discipline really comes into play. And that's patience inside the reps. That's what truly separates the average teams that lose in the playoffs to the great teams that go on to win the games and eventually make a deep playoff run. 49ers are one of the examples. They played disciplined football against the Eagles, and they played the complete opposite against the Seahawks. And that's why they got the belt. When you are impatient, that's exactly when you get exposed.
expose him! Expose him!
Just like the 49ers did. Heck, man, even the freaking Bills. They were playing a great game, but they had 4 or 5 turnovers. I said 4 and held up 5. I may be dyslexic, but it's all right. This is where talent stops working. Because against disciplined teams, impatience shows up in a couple examples. One being this throw by Trevor Lawrence. Game on the line, and he decides to throw his read and rush it, throwing a pick, while the D-back Tre'Davious White is all over it and running with the receiver like,
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Another thing that happens is the running backs, they try to bounce everything to the outside because they didn't see daylight instantly. Or, to make matters worse, Saquon Barkley is a prime example of this. He'll sit there and wait for a hole to open, and he'll just dance around. Nothing will open, and then it's a loss. I don't think Saquon is washed by any means. But when he plays around in the hole, I'm just like, what are we doing? Another thing is quarterbacks. They bail from clean pockets because that play didn't hit right when they wanted it to. and everyone swears it was a good idea. My boy Jalen Hurts, he be doing that all the time. When you watch teams that are patient inside the reps, like the Bills, the Patriots, even the Rams, they're playing clean football. Routes aren't rushed. The backs press the hole, and they hit the hole, and they're freaking going through the gap. Quarterbacks, they stay calm, and they let coverage declare itself, and they know exactly where to go with the ball. Plays don't explode immediately. They develop. And developing these plays is what makes the big plays. You see the opposite with teams like the Chargers or the Jaguars. When that impatience starts to creep in, talent is there, but the timing disappears. For my high school athletes, take note here. The importance of discipline and effort may not look exciting or flashy, but it can make the difference between making a run in the playoffs or watching it from your couch. This is the real separator. The teams that last, they don't beat themselves. When teams lose big games, it's rarely because the opponent did anything magical. It's usually self-inflicted wounds, especially when you look at last week's games. The Texans had 5 or 6 turnovers, while the Patriots had 4. And don't get me wrong, it's still a crazy amount of turnovers. But when you're a fundamentally sound team, it is hard to lose when you have less turnovers. The Bills are a great example. Really wish my boy Josh Allen pulled it off, but can't turn the ball over that many times and expect to win, especially against a fundamentally sound team like the Broncos. Now, a busted coverage, a missed alignment, someone forgetting down and distance, these little mistakes tend to happen at the worst possible time. And that's when the game really shifts. And we've seen how brutal that can be for the teams I already mentioned. But even the Panthers and the Jaguars, when structure cracks, one error leads to scrambling, scrambling leads to panic, and panic leads to giving up yards that you didn't have to give up. Or in Trevor Lawrence's example, you got him throwing picks. He's looking like Stevie Wonder out there. Now, when you compare it to teams that don't beat themselves, like the Rams, the Seahawks, now, by no means are they perfect, but they're clean. They line up right, they communicate. Clean football doesn't look cool on highlight tapes. But when the margin for error disappears, that's when clean football survives and it moves on to the next round. And what this truly means for you, whether you're a fan or a player, if you're watching these games hoping to steal a move, a route, or some secret trick, you're missing the lesson. The real takeaway isn't what they run, it's how they think and how they execute it. The best teams aren't guessing, they're anticipating. They understand leverage, timing, situational football. They know when to be aggressive and when to let the game come to them. Once you start watching football through that lens, the game slows down instantly. And that's when you stop chasing highlights and start seeing advantages. That's when you play faster without rushing it. That's when the coaches start trusting you, because trust does not come from effort or speeches or hype plays. For my football fans, that's when you truly know what the heck is actually going on during the game. Not just box score watching, saying, oh, he had a bad game. You'll really be able to understand the ins and outs and what goes into winning football. Winning football is not magic, it's mastery. When you actually start viewing the game this way, you realize what truly goes into winning football, especially in the playoffs. And if this video helped you out, stay tuned for the next one and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be breaking down a couple of the playoff games and, really building off your football IQ and taking your game to the next level, whether you're a fan, a player, or your auntie. It don't matter. See you in the next one. God first and God bless.